The four Manus of the root races, my beloved, serve Earth's evolutions in holding the balance of the law with the four cosmic forces. These four hold the cardinal points, north, south, east, and west, the cardinal points of divinity with which all must find congruency. The Father, the Son, the Holy Spirit, and the Mother. We four, therefore, embody the elements of nature, of angelic host, of the Chohans of the rays, angels, elementals, and evolutions of the four root races that remain to fulfill their fiery destiny upon earth. The fourth, fifth, sixth, and seventh root races. I am your own blue lotus flame, Himalaya. With me stand Vevaspata Manu, the god and goddess Meru, and the great divine director. We come, therefore, bearing the light of the Christ flame of these holy ones of God. It appears that the longevity of the stay upon earth has increased the karmic accountability of those earlier members of the earlier root races that remain, those of the fourth and the fifth, that ought to be the great-granddaddies and grandmothers of those incoming avatars of the sixth and the seventh root races. Beloved ones, as you know, the tilt of Earth's axis due to laggard karma has caused an out-of-kiltering effect in the manifestation of the timetables of the sixth and the seventh root races. Some have said that the seventh root race is nigh in coming, and others have said that the sixth root race is only appearing now. Realize that the avatar, Jesus Christ, came as the pivot point between the fourth and fifth and their entrenched manifestation of Brahmanism and of the recalcitrance of the Sanhedrin and the rabbinical schools. And those have existed as an inverted and reverted orthodoxy, both in the traditions of East and West. He came also to set the Christ example for the sixth root race and to open the door to the example for the seventh in the very person of Saint Germain, in numerous embodiments, that which represents the apex, or was intended so, in the life of Francis Bacon. Even that embodiment was almost a short-changing for Saint Germain, for his divine rule upon earth ought to have been as king of the English-speaking peoples of the planet. Nevertheless, the teachings were set forth, and Francis Bacon left a mark that none can wipe out. It is a stain of truth that will not be removed from the garment of any of the four root races of Earth's evolutions. Thus the days are hastening, and we observe that some great forerunners of the seventh race have taken embodiment, and those are more numerous in the sixth root race. Of these have come forth to occupy planet Earth in far greater numbers than many realize. This has to do with the shortening and the lengthening of cycles, as it must be so, because of the interference with cosmic cycles that has happened not only in the last 200 years, but the last 2,000 years. Now, beloved hearts, for many of you, this planetary body is not home. Your home may be Venus, or the god star Sirius, or beyond. And therefore you understand yourselves as pilgrims here and servants of Sanat Kumara, and many of you are most interested in fulfilling your individual divine plan, as many of the ascended masters today were interested in so doing when they were in embodiment. They have discovered, as you soon shall, that merely to fulfill one's own divine plan does not necessarily cut one free from this evolution or this planetary body, even if one is not a member of the embodied 4th, 5th, or 6th root races. Therefore, you see, it is important to plan not only ahead in a straight line, but wide, as though making the lines of a piece of a great cosmic pie, fanning out from your own heart flame, and including a much larger circle of the horizon and those many life waves that shall come over the horizon in search of the dawning light of your personal divinity. What I am saying is this, that we who are the Manus who have embodied the archetypal patterns of these races, as well as the law and the fiery destiny, have also tarried with this earth star, perhaps far beyond our own personal karma may have required, but the larger dharma of our service would not let us free until all evolutions coming forth with the God stamp of our divinity should also find their freedom. This represents, therefore, to you who would don the mantle of the shepherds of the race, a continuing challenge, for the challenge now is the intermingling of races and laggard races with the root races, even with the 6th root race, and also the seed of the wicked and the fallen ones. And therefore, for the rescue of the light bearer, all must attend the harvest. Now we have isolated a very particular and peculiar problem for each of the many sectors of the root races. For there are many life waves and generations that in and of themselves within the root races, as you know, form sub-root races and karmic groups. We have realized, therefore, that many of you, unbeknownst to yourselves, and without realizing the reason for your specialization, find yourselves in a work, a sacred labor, a profession, or engaged in a study or an emphasis in your life service that involves a very important segment of one of the root races, those presently here, and ultimately of the fulfillment of the 6th and the 7th life waves. Therefore, beloved, we would have you understand that without your realization of the fact, you actually hold in your hand and in your heart this day the key to the overcoming and the victory and the divine plan of large groups of Earth's evolutions, some of whom do not even reside upon this continent, although America being what she is, the great melting pot of all evolutions, you can always find at least representatives of those life waves. Understanding this, and also understanding that there is a point of illumination and a teaching of the law on the path to self-mastery that is often particularly understandable to certain groups of individuals. Some will understand the mystery of the spoken word, others the violet flame, others the interpretation of biblical prophecy or the words and works of Christ or Krishna or Buddha. Finding the particular thread to thread the eye of the particular needle of the bent of consciousness, therefore becomes your assignment from the Manus of the root races and the members of the karmic board in this year 1983. You have heard the goddess of liberty and beloved Portia speak to translate the heart, head, and hand decrees into the languages of the ethnic groups that are found in the United States, and to bring into the light and into the teaching of the violet flame those individuals who have come this far by the call of the heart, by the call of love, and who have settled here, and therefore who have already imbibed the elements of the flame of liberty, as well as the spirit of America, those who are free yet to oppose the activities of communism in their home nations, and those who have at least some protection of this nation, which they ought to have in the defense of the liberty of their karmic group. This remains an assignment, and I ask that it be accelerated and acted upon physically, coordinated with your other publishing goals of this year. It is important that needle rays, I said needle rays, from the heart of mighty cosmos penetrate as crystal splinters of sacred fire into the hearts and souls of people that have never been reached before. It is important that you listen, and listen well, to Mother's teaching on the 2x2, which equals the city 4 square. This is an important assignment as your initiation, not only from Jesus Christ and Lord Maitreya, but all of the Buddhas of the earth. They have sent their disciples 2x2 across the nations, and you must understand that it is not necessary to travel 1,000,000 miles, but to pick a neighborhood in your city and to go door to door and to give the teachings of the masters and the concepts of the new age, bearing the magnificent focus of heart and presenting it as your statement of truth and as the open door to the understanding of brotherhood among nations. Blessed ones of the light, this is an assignment that is necessary on the path of every bodhisattva. It requires both humility and boldness. It requires the willingness to make oneself, as the prophets of old, a gazing stock, and perhaps to allow oneself to be looked down upon by those self-styled superior elements of society who consider such activities the actions only of the poor and the uneducated. I speak then of going door to door with a message of the heart, and the realization that in some areas of life, pride and the pride of fallen ones does not allow for this conduct, nor for the inclusion of people who so carry on their life within the higher echelons of society. You have come to a conference on the Buddhas in winter, and perhaps you wonder how this very theme relates to all that has taken place here. I assure you that the Buddhas in winter are the Buddhas within the 5 secret rays surrounding your own heart, and that this conference is convoked because it was necessary for you to be assembled, to be still, and to be one-pointed in your attention, so that a mighty work could be carried on within the temple of your own being and within the temple of your heart chakra for the fortification of your hearts against the battle and unto the victory. Therefore, I, Himalaya, address you on the very activities of the fallen ones and their determination to eat away at the 4 lower bodies of the individual. Christ the Lord gave the teaching, fear not them which kill the body, but those which destroy the soul in hell. There are those upon earth in this hour, Mr. Andropov, for one, that manifests the ultimate of Antichrist and has used means for the destruction of the soul in hell for all the years of his activities with the KGB in the Soviet Union and throughout the world. Realize then that the destruction of the soul in hell is the destruction of the sheaths of light, the vehicles of consciousness, the means of self-expression, self-awareness, Christhood, and Buddhahood that are accorded to the soul. You realize that all that is beneath the octave of your mighty I Am presence and outside of the mighty rings of your Christ self is vulnerable. All is temporal, all is mutable, which means subject to change. All is temporal, which means subject to the decay of time. Realize then that the physical body is subject to the law of disintegration, as is the astral body. The mental body has its strength only when it is the embodiment of the Christ mind, and therefore does endure beyond the cycles of disillusion when the Christ mind is the reality of the mind of the individual. The carnal mind itself and the sheath of the mental body, when it is used as an instrument for the carnal mind, is also subject to disintegration. And the fire body, the least mutable, may yet come under a certain assault by the most sophisticated means of the sinister force, especially the lower etheric body, where there are the records of discord, disease, and death. Now, if you can imagine these lower bodies, all but the highest levels of etheric perfection, subject to the corrosion of the sinister force and a deliberate plot whereby the force literally eats away at these bodies, you can see that what would remain is the soul itself naked. Now, this nakedness is the station of the cross, wherein Jesus Christ is stripped of his garments. The stripping of the garments is the stripping of the vessels. The question is, to be or not to be, whether or not stripped of your vessels, you would remain an identity, an id-entity, a manifestation of individualization of the God flame. Stripped of your four lower bodies in this moment, beloved, what would remain of your selfhood and of your consciousness? All that would remain is the pure white fire of your chakras, your threefold flame, and that which your own beloved Linello often referred to as the substance of soul. Soul substance or soul stuff. And this substance of soul is like a cloud of fiery energy that surrounds the seat of the soul chakra. And therefore it is like Tinker Bell, appearing as a light that goes on and off, almost like a firefly. The identity of the soul is like a white Christmas ball with a fire in the center, and it glows by the quality of consciousness that has been retained by the individual below the level of the heart, below the level of the Christ. That is sustaining God's awareness within the soul. The soul is often seen as the personality of the individual and the manifestation of the outer self. It is that portion of the life stream that continues to evolve. It is the potential for beingness, itself also subject to non-permanence by the wrong exercise of free will. Therefore, beloved ones, we must consider, on the one hand, the needs of the root races remaining on earth, and as your role as shepherds. And we must consider, on the other hand, the attempts of the false hierarchy to erode and corrode the sheaths or garments of the members of these root races precisely according to what is most important from the standpoint of the sinister force to destroy in terms of those root races' divine plan. The fallen ones have computers in their astral retreats and lairs where they have noted carefully the life waves of earth, where they have set their mark and their targets. Why, beloved ones, if Mr. Andropov could actually have amassed Western technology to create a tremendous computer system on the Soviet Union which keeps track of millions of people, both within the Iron Curtain and in the West, do you not think that the masterminds behind him in the false hierarchy of the astral plane, who have been doing this for tens of thousands of years, should not have a far more accurate recording of the life streams? Every life stream upon this planet to them is a potential God and a potential Christ, whom they see as a threat to their own continuing non-existence, their own continuing unreality. And therefore, as easily as you can bring to the fore on a giant computer system on its screen the outline and profile of statistics on an individual, so it can be done in the astral plane, and it is done. And therefore, when you put together the entire record of a life stream of previous incarnations, as is done by the fallen ones, it is easy to perceive at a glance what is the weakness, what is the vulnerability, what is the point of the Achilles heel. And therefore the fallen ones drive and drive and drive against that vulnerability of each and every living soul. Therefore they have devised ways and means to work against the children of the light. They have their psychiatric hospitals, they have their injections, they have their manipulations of the brain. This is where individuals may be captured by them. In the West, they have a constant putting across of the nations of psychotronic energy, which is intertwined with and amplified by rock music. They have a mass campaign of using drugs of every kind, these to destroy chemically the strength of light that surrounds the chakras, to begin to corrode the astral body, the physical body, to begin to destroy the cell patterns, and to alter the DNA. Nation by nation across the face of the earth, they have used various techniques. Genetic engineering has all but overburdened and destroyed the light of the people of the African continent. Beloved hearts, if you look at each nation and even the segments of nations, you can see those things that have been used by the fallen ones to destroy the capacity of the mind to transcend itself, to go beyond the brain, to go into those electronic currents that vibrate around the brain and the chakras, that connect the soul, the living soul by the heart flame, to the mind of God, to the Christ self, and to the I am presence. Beloved hearts, you must understand the reality of this problem. Even some of those substances, heavy spices, and habituary uses that are made in India of other types of substances such as betel have brought about a density, or perhaps an indulgence, a weakness that involves the absence of the balance of the yin and the yang in the chemistry of the body. And therefore, people who become weak, weakened in the spine because the kundalini is siphoned off by various means, find themselves weakened in the mind, in the body, in the emotions, and they are not able to summon the strength that is adequate and powerful enough in the light of the internal Krishna to manifest the antithesis to that which is sent against them as the great overwhelming darkness. It is a darkness that is a counterfeit of that dark night of the soul and the dark night of the spirit, which comes under the protection of the Manus to those souls who must enter in to the fullness of their Christhood. Therefore, the fallen ones anticipate the initiation of the transfer of the fruit of knowledge as well as the fruit of the tree of life. They anticipate all of the initiations that must come to pass on the path of the Christ and the Buddha. They counterfeit these, they preempt them, they come too early before the individual is ready, and therefore the individual himself in the very process surrenders his light and becomes the slave of one more planetary beast of mass control. This having been accomplished, the individual is securely blinded to his own fiery destiny and insensitized to even the sensitivity that he should have to the coming of the elect one, to the guru or the teacher who could rescue him from his plight. Thus you have noticed how those who are on drugs do not wish to hear that drugs are not good for them and resent the approach of anyone who would help them. As you know very much, this is the marijuana entity or the heroin entity, and therefore once beset by the entity, the individual has sealed himself from illumination and enters a downward spiral unless some son of God lays down his life and takes unto himself that conglomerate of the marijuana beast or the planetary beast of heroin or cocaine or PCP are all of these deadly substances which were also known on Atlantis. Therefore, beloved ones, the 4 Manus come with a dispensation multiplied by the 9 Buddhas from beloved Alpha and Omega, that you individually, by the power of your own Buddhic mind and Buddhic heart, shall be given the instruction at the Grand Teton retreat at night, if you so choose to receive it and make the fervent call, that you will understand what is the specialization of your own heart and your own ability to teach a certain aspect of the teaching, which is the wisdom of the law, and of the misuse of the light on earth by way of exposures, of the manipulation of the people. Your specialization as above, so below will allow you to converse in many circles where interests may be more avid regarding material circumstances and betrayals, such as in the government or the economy, than it would be in things of the spirit. And therefore you must always have in your miracle pouch any number of jewels to choose from that you may use. Now at the Grand Teton retreat, under a coordinated program of Lord Lanto and Lord Confucius, you will then learn what is your present specialization, what has been your field of concentration in many previous embodiments that would be ideal for you to bring forth and multiply again and make use of it, because it is treasure in your cosmic bank account. And then you will be given the ability to develop this and perfect it both on the inner and the outer. You will be shown which life waves and groups of individuals on earth will find and have the greatest appeal for your specialization. You will be shown what is the divine plan of these people, who are they, where are they, what is their economic and educational level, how should you approach them, in what level of language and communication, and you will also be shown what is their divine plan and what is the opposition to their divine plan by the mass organization such as the KGB and other nefarious forces that are alive and active in the astral planes of every nation upon earth. Realize then that you must put on the whole armor of God, and realize how serious is this assignment and how dangerous it is in itself. You must have a co-measurement of yourself against the backdrop of the infinite and your mighty I Am presence, and you must also have a co-measurement of the enemy. You must realize what are his tools, what he will do, calculated precisely as a reaction to your own statement of truth. When you know the enemy, you study past performance of that enemy and how he has responded to the threat, the ultimate threat against his own personhood. And therefore you are ready for the return, you are ready for the 11 o'clock return of revenge against the thrust of power of wisdom sponsored by the evolutions of the Gemini mind of God from the heart of Darjeeling and your own beloved El Moria. I can assure you that the Manus and the members of the Darjeeling Council and of the Great White Brotherhood have met in this past year and before the turning of this decade, and have prepared for you, as you are able to receive it, more and more specific assignments and more specific dispensations. You must be ready for the incision of the diamond shining mind of God and the razor's edge of penetration to rescue souls actually by the use of the cosmic razor, cutting them free from the grips of the fallen ones without harming not a hair of their heads or even of their skin. Beloved ones, realize then that the plot to eat away at the 4 lower bodies and leave the soul naked before the soul itself has the attainment in Christhood is a most deadly and serious situation. For if the soul be stripped of her garments before the hour when the soul is walking the 14 stations of the cross, preparing for the crucifixion. That soul will be naked in the sense of ultimate vulnerability to the hordes of shadow, who then simply come in and make, as it were, mincemeat of that one. This is what happens to individuals when they pass from embodiment, whether by suicide, our youth in suicide, or in overdoses of drugs, or in drunk driving, or all of the mishaps that occur, to pluck from life the tender buds of the vine. These things ought not to be. An example of this activity against the four lower bodies and the soul is in the problem of child molesting. This in itself is such an inroad that it does penetrate the psyche, which is the soul, and it is an attempt to penetrate the 5 secret rays, for the 5 secret rays around the heart are the guarding of the virgin consciousness of the Holy Child, so that that virgin consciousness is sealed in heart, and the actual life force is not activated in the Kundalini until the child reaches an older age, when it is correct according to the divine plan of evolution for that child to mount in the light of understanding of the procreative process and the mantle of father and mother. The stimulation and the activation of the lower chakras in little children by the mass media, by drugs and alcohol, and by all forms of looseness on the part of parents is therefore the means of the lowering of the sacred fire of the 5 secret rays that surround the heart into the lower chakras. And this stimulation, as with all stimulation of the chakras, may result in addiction, and addiction, which follows, demands a day-by-day increasing stimulation in order for there to be achieved a certain release. Whether it is alcoholism, whether it is drugs, whether it is sexual activity, the more that the aggravation occurs, the more it is engaged in. And thus, it is the plot of the false hierarchy of this planet in this year to take their onslaught against the youth and the little children and the newborn and the unborn. It has been so in previous years, but I tell you, they have met in their councils, these false hierarchs. They have moved against the light bearers, and they have determined that the greatest enemies of mankind are in embodiment or coming into embodiment and are now in existence up to the age of 21. Thus we must also make it our mark and our goal to place in the hands of those who are teenagers and below our magazine for the coming revolution in higher consciousness, for they are the ones who will be able to run with the message. You can see then that the attack upon the reading ability, the intelligence, the comprehension, the vocabulary, and the English language worldwide upon the people of these ages is precisely to prevent them from having an inherent attunement with the word which has gone forth and the manifestation of the word in language. Beloved hearts, that which has the greatest power to succeed is that which is the community of the Holy Spirit that is organized. There can be no organization without communication. There is no communication without the Holy Spirit. I suggest that you consider earnestly once again the forming of committees of concentration. You have heard Chelas speak on their areas of expertise or areas where they are in the process of becoming experts. You may identify with one or more of these or none, having your sense of direction elsewhere. What you must realize is that all over the world there are keepers of the flame who over the years have formed a God determination to support the brotherhood in one or more areas of concentration in their decrees. Decreeing itself on the activities of world communism already creates a specialization, for you are specialists in wielding the mighty sword of blue flame and the sword Excalibur, and you have a mighty momentum on dealing with this, because when you exit your bodies and go to the etheric retreats, you carry your decree momentum with you, and therefore you become adept also in the awareness of what is happening. I will tell you, therefore, that upon this planetary body, the representative par excellence, if you would have it, of the Antichrist is Andropov. You must understand that this individual coming to the head of the Soviet Union is the greatest single threat worldwide to the light bearers that has occurred since the era of Stalin. This individual being worse than Stalin himself, and the cunningness of the individual and the seeming acceptance of members of the West, their desire to believe he is better than they know he is a dangerous sign, because it shows that the leaders of the West do not really want to face what is clearly the handwriting on the wall. Therefore I, Himalaya, from the very heights of the purity of the snows of the mountains of the earth, send forth to you in the name of Vevasvata Manu and the god and goddess Meru, and the great divine director, the assignment to daily make the call for the judgment of this individual, and all who are working with him, all who are on his wavelength, through every member of the KGB in every nation upon earth, through the spaceships, through their computers of the false hierarchy on the astral plane and on the physical plane that are now functioning in the Soviet Union and elsewhere, and in the embassies of all of the satellite nations and their psychotronic generators. The judgment upon this individual and all that comes forth through him, the entire network of world control, must be your God determination. And in terms of the political arena upon the face of this planet, there is nothing as important. This individual will stop at nothing. You know of record that there have been brutal and barbaric assassinations in this nation of America of representatives in the press of European nations in the Soviet bloc who have come to America to expose the activities of the Communist Party worldwide. The KGB has entered their apartments, their offices, murdered them, and our own government, the government of that is representative of the Great White Brotherhood, or ought to be, has done nothing to stop these agents, to catch these murderers, or to request the closing of the embassies or to send home the representatives of these nations. This means that, technically speaking, every American citizen who raises his hand against the darkness of these foes is subject to the same assault. This is the bare truth, but it is so. Therefore, protect yourselves, protect your children, and understand that what has happened in the past in terms of Soviet murder and brutality can happen again unless checked by the light bearers. This checking action that comes through the dynamic decrees ultimately is traced to its source by psychics in the Soviet Union who see clearly what is the opposition to the Soviet Empire and have as their trade and their business to do nothing but use their enhanced psychic powers to follow the rays and wavelengths of the minds of the light bearers on earth. Therefore, it is not a difficult matter for them to trace the wavelength of the dynamic decrees that oppose world communism. I bring to you, therefore, another perspective on the why and wherefore of the inner retreat and Glastonbury. It is because strength is in numbers. When the numbers of individuals who have been of the Mormons, the Jehovah's Witnesses, and other groups upon earth have reached a certain level, by the fact of their sheer numbers and their consequent power, they have been more or less left alone. However, it has always been the isolated Son of God that has been attacked and has been done away with. When you have that mutual support and mutual strength, you will see how much more you can do for planet Earth. I, for one, and the Manus join me in encouraging you to enter into that union, that divine union upon which this nation was founded, which is the union of the Great White Brotherhood. To come into that union and to discover how the mountains, the forests, and the bigness of the land itself can act as a radiating center to multiply your joint decrees in far greater capacity than is possible in the dense cities, where you must first overcome a very dense covering over, especially at sea level, of the mass consciousness of millions of individuals abiding there before you can actually reach a crescendo of planetary influence. You can see how we have chosen a rugged area, for the masters have always summoned their devotees to the rugged areas of the Himalayas. As the Himalayas are no longer in an area of physical protection, we summon all devotees of the masters of East and West to the inner retreat. For those who have been decimated in their ranks in Tibet and in India must realize that there is a haven of safety and a place of reinforcement. The power and the science of the spoken word must now meet the challenge of interplanetary, physical, and astral forces, as it has never done before. And we would see the geometry of the multiplication of our forces meet every challenge upon earth, that we might walk into the golden age, hand in hand and secure. We look then for the fulfillment of the divine plan. We look for the laying of the foundation of the seventh age and the seventh dispensation, when truly freedom can be permanent, because it is first the attainment of God mastery in the hearts of the people. I trust my message this day will quicken in your heart not only a vision, but the perception of your own ability to do more and to be more precise in your statements for the victory. May the messenger and staff be so blessed as to provide you with the publications and the information that you may use as tools as you are on the battle line, and you must have the necessary weapons, so they must manufacture them. For our weapon is truth, it is love, it is the mystery of the word, it is the expose, it is illumination. And therefore, as you send back from the front lines messages on the condition of the world, as you write your summaries and your articles and send them to the heart, these may quickly be translated, whether into our magazine, at least into pamphlets of information on the various topics. There is nothing to prevent you from forming committees to write newsletters on the specific area of concentration of your choice. Newsletters that speak of what is happening nation by nation to combat marijuana, abortion, and all of the foes of the light bearers. I come in the name of the cosmic Christ and the Buddhas aborning in the womb. I come as the representative and the incarnation of the Buddhas in winter. I come for the protection of the 5 secret rays and the pathway of the 5 Buddhas. May you come to understand these great truths, and may much of the teaching on the Buddhas already given in past quarters of Summit University become available to you this quarter, as students here rejoice to discover just how much has been taught. And so you may also rejoice in your field of labor to come home for that cup of cold water and the elixir of light, which is the hearing of the word of beloved Linello and Mother, so prepared for you with such great love by so many saints above. I am Himalaya. Remember me in the blue lotus and in every blue flower you see throughout the year. For I am truly the blossoming of the blue flame will of God to draw all life waves into alignment with the inner blueprint. May you so aspire, and may you know what it means to live absolutely and fully fulfilled, one with and perfectly aligned with your own great divine reality, with your own inner purpose, your soul blueprint. Blessed ones, I tell you, the feeling of being absolutely Christ-centered in mind and body and soul is the greatest exhilaration that you can know in physical embodiment. May you know it, may you love it, and may you give it to all as you break the bread of life of your own soul substance, and give to all that which is yours to give, and seal the circle of identity. Allow no man to take thy crown, allow no woman to penetrate thy garment, allow no devil or fallen elemental or mischievous foul spirit to enter into the bloodstream and alter the pure divinity of your God consciousness. I am Himalaya of the sun. I have tarried with earth's evolutions long, and I wait for my own beloved to ascend from your midst. Therefore understand how cosmic beings have yet in embodiment their own twin flames, and strive with oneness for your own. For we have known the pain of the battle and the pain of separation. With you we strive onward to attain the mark of godhood. In the name of the entire spirit of the Great White Brotherhood, I salute you in victory. In the name of beloved Lord Himalaya, Vaivasvata Manu, the God and Goddess Meru, and the great divine director, by the heart of Helios and Vesta, we salute all of our brothers and sisters in white, ascended hosts and saints of the Great White Brotherhood, and all who are a part of a mighty cosmic effort to rescue the souls of light upon earth and to roll back every threatening woe that can be rolled back by the will of God. We thank you, beloved beings of light, our teachers and friends who have so organized yourselves to make possible our own service, which we sense in such an accelerating manner. In the name of light we say, Hail Himalaya! Hail Himalaya! Hail Himalaya! Hail Himalaya!